Hey, chess friends, National Master James Canty III here with Chess.com, and today we have the top 5 moves from Levon Aronian. Let's get right into it. This first game is actually Levon Aronian playing with the black pieces against Ivan Sokolov in 2006. Let's see what's going on in this position here. So bishop takes b8. There's obviously the bishop took a knight here because the knight was sitting on b8. So you have an option of just taking it back, just try to keep material somewhat even, or try to figure out this position. You could just capture back, which is white's expecting that. And then maybe we'll do something else as white, maybe kicking or and highlighting the position that white has or black has with the weaknesses here. But Aronian chose a different move here. In fact, he chose queen f6. Very strong. Lots of prep still here. He's still in his home prep here. There's a lot going on with this knight. Knight takes c3, pawn takes, bishop takes, and of course we're skewering here, or forking in a way, but taking that rook on a1 and you're done. Not really, but of course at the same time, he's trying to take this pretty obvious threat. So white says, okay, I'm going to let you have it because I am not going to take it back. I'm going to play something in between, attack 2 pieces instead of 1. This is a very brave move. In fact, we even watched the move after black moves here. A3 hitting b4 and c3 at the same time. There's no like cool discoveries. Check this out. Where does the knight go to do anything with this check? And if you do anything with this check, I'm going to take with b4. I'm going to take on b4. The whole intention of a3 is to take on b4 when you move the knight. So, of course, that's attack. Now, instead of playing just really passive defense, moving the bishop, you always want to look for active offense. The best defense is always going to be offense. So what's some offensive moves here? You have to kind of look around the board. Maybe you're thinking moving the knight somewhere, but again, that's going to be answered with a takes b4. So Levon chose bishop f5, develop at the same time, get a piece into this attack, and maybe this queen goes somewhere weird, and then we'll have like a knight b1 check, maybe. All kind of things that can happen here, followed by queen takes b2, all kind of crazy stuff on the back ranks, and it looks wild. So, of course, Sokolov finds a nice move here, queen d2, saying go ahead, move the bishop, go ahead, move the knight, move anything. I dare you to move the knight here because I'm going to take here. And if you move the bishop, I'm probably going to play b4, which that's exactly what happens. Bishop a5, b4. This is a standard move that you make when you play e3, right? Play a3, you play b4, same thing over here sometimes, h3 and g4. So it makes sense to play b4, but in fact, it's not the best move. e3 would have actually kept Ivan Sokolov here in the game still. But b4 was the option, natural move to make. And I mean, it really is. Just getting rid of this diagonal, how dangerous it was very annoying. And again, instead of doing passive defense, we're going to do active offense, and the best defense is offense. So we're going to play 94, attacking the rook on a1 and the queen at the same time. Now, Sokolov's like, oh, that's simple. I already saw that. Queen c1. I'm defending everything, and you have to move your bishop here. Or do you? It's black to move. What do you do here, guys? What do you do? What do you do? After queen to c1, here it is. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? What you thinking is captures? You think captures maybe? Maybe b6? That's strange. What else would you do here? Maybe knight takes g3 or rook c8 and we grade. What a move. Sacrificing the bishop. And then rook takes c5 and we live. And this is getting ridiculous. Queen's coming in. There's mating there's all kind of mates. This is a family channel. So after rook to c8, there's rook to a2. Getting off of this file or this diagonal here. Doesn't want anything to do with this anymore. The queen needs to move eventually. And we want to probably block here. Now again, it's your turn, black to move. Aronian's on the initiative here, time and activity. We got pieces flowing. We're active. King is undeveloped, or king is really safe, and undevelopment is very, very big for white here. So black to move, what do we do, guys? Black to move, here it is, here it is. You ready? And rook takes c5. Oh my goodness, it's getting crazy in here. The queen is hanging, and this is still like there's 2 pieces hanging. Okay, really 1, because you can't actually take this rook due to the pin, but the bishop is hanging, but the queen's hanging right now. So queen a1 saying, all right, cool. Hey, look, we got to get these off the board. Aronian, you're doing too much. Yeah, it's flashy. I like what you're doing. Queen a1. Okay, cool. Let's just get them off the board. And Aronian says, well, of course, it's on you. What did Aronian do in this position? What would you do? Black to move. Here it is, guys. Here it is right here. After queen a1, I mean, I could capture. And Aronian just says, you know what? Queen c6. Ha, gotcha. Not taking that at all. Queen to c6. What a move. Oh, my goodness. Hanging this with check. Not just a hanging rook sacrifice. That's even harder to do and it's hard to face and hard to ever fathom, is doing it with check. Queen takes h8 is check. Now, of course, that actually didn't happen here. And what happens here? In fact, it runs into the same. Queen takes h8. You have king to d7. In the game, though, Sokolov chose after queen c6, queen e5 check, and then after king d8, allowing the check. He didn't want to do king d7 because queen takes f5 was check as well. He didn't want to allow it, so that makes sense. King d8, queen takes h8, and now king to d7, threatening mate on the back rank. Wow. One way to stop it, or temporarily engine move, right, would be check. Or rook a1, and then you check and takes and mate. Wow. Mind-blowing from Aronian. And that was number 1. Now, let's move on to number 2. And here we are with move number 2 with Levon Aronian. This game is Alexei Shirov versus Levon Aronian in 2006. So we have Aronian playing with the black pieces here. Let's actually see what he does. So here with the black pieces, guys, check this out. First off, let's do an overview. What's going on? Well, we see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns for white and 3 pawns for black. White's up 3 pawns and he's about to queen. And you have your rook here and you're like, yo, this is just over, right? This just looks completely over for black. No hope. But maybe Aronian might find something here or something that may shock you here. In fact, it is black to move. What do you do in this position? What did Aronian choose? Here it is, guys. A spectacular 100% I know my end games type move. Here it is right here. Look at this move. King e8. Oh my goodness. Is that real? That is real. King e8 is a big boy move. What? Sacrificing? I mean, this doesn't make sense. He just takes the rook, but it actually makes a lot of sense. After king takes, well, we lock him in 2 ways to do it. Either or works, king f7 or king f8. And now you have, of course, the draw that happens in these type of king and pawn endgames, but white's in Zugzwang. He also has moves that he can make here. What happens? So let's actually put this on the board. h4, king f7, h5, king f8. We just go back and forth. Oh, and you're now stuck to making pawn moves now because this is not over. So in fact, d5 we can capture, and then b3, and then c4, and we just queen. Insane. Mind blown. I know. I understand. I know. Wow. Now let's go back. In fact, that didn't happen in the game, but that was going to happen there. In fact, so it was insane actually. So after the king e8 move, there was king to g6. So he backs up and says, "Okay, I see you. Ha, crafty, very crafty, Aronian. I'm not going to take that rook." Says Shirov here, king f8. Okay, cool. We're gonna get a little close to you because you don't have many moves, right? So if you can't go forward, first off, now taking this loses. Actually, I'm just going to take and then centralize, and the rook's going to gobble up the pawns, and you're not fast enough. So h4 happens. We need something to do. So black realizes, wait, you don't have that many moves. Okay, cool. We're going to do this with our king. King e7, king g7. Ha, same situation. Same move, right? King e8, king g6. And now, do you get the pattern? Can you finish out what happened in these next few moves? Do you get the pattern now? Are you able to understand the pattern that's going on here? King f8, h5. Where do we go? King e7, king g7, and king e8, absolutely. Right, look at that pattern. Beautiful technique. King g6, king f8, h6, king e8, king f6. Thank you. On h7, king to g6, rook f7. And after h7, you think, oh, I'll just take the pawn. I'll just take the pawn. Yeah, that's cool. But in fact, you actually play. This is so cool. I mean, this is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in endgame. Right here is rook f8. You just go rook f8, it's completely winning. And then, okay, what? King g7? And, oh, man, it would hurt to be sitting playing white. To do this, almost want to retire after this. This is king g7, rook h8, and you're winning. Unbelievable. The same technique over and over here. The nice little pattern recognition. King e8, king f8, king e7, king e8. Just going back and forth in a little circle. Exhausting all of white's moves. And now when you sit in this situation, of course, king takes runs into the same thing. You're zugged out. Thank you so much. You got to move something. And I'm going to just queen and win this game as well. Beautiful there from Aronian. That was number 2. And now let's move on to number 3. And here we are with move number 3 from Aronian here. Now in this game, Aronian's playing white. versus his opponent is Gelfand. This is back in 2013. Now let's actually see what's going on. We always take a stock of what's going on first. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns for white versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns for black. Okay, then we count the pieces. So bishop pair for black, which is equal to a pawn usually. So of course, even though we're down a pawn as black, I mean, these two bishops do give us some compensation for it. So, and it's also, they're pretty good bishops too as well. This could be better placed, but this one's a monster here versus the bishop and knight. This one not so good because of the pawns that are on it, or the pawns that are on the same color of this bishop. The knight's extremely strong though, and there is some tension here on the file, and it's white to move as well. So with that being said, guys, it is white to move. How do you proceed here? Do you just capture the rook? Maybe you could capture and follow up at knight to c6, but you are Aronian. So you have to remember that. If you're Aronian, like, what are you going to do in this position? White to move. Here it is. Here it is. Aronian says, Bishop h6. And that move really matters, by the way. Bishop h6 check. That's a big boy check. Well, of course, we have to look at what happens. If he captures it, why would we put it here and not show you what happens if he captures it? Bishop takes h6. Rook takes c8, takes, and knight takes f7, getting the material back in a better position. Now the knight is dominating this bishop. Pretty gross in a way on how this bishop has to kind of defend here. The knight is very mobile. It can move around very quickly and attack the weak points in the position, and white can go on to win this game. So after bishop h6, Gelfand says, I don't want any part in it. I don't like this. Like, we're just going to go back. So king g8, he backs up, goes home here. And now Aronian says, okay, now this is a different position from the starting one because there's a bishop on h6 and the king is now on g8, now on g7. So that makes a big difference. When small changes like this happen, maybe some of the same ideas you had before might actually work. Well, let's see what he does. Rook takes c8, bam, there it is, takes. And now knight to c6 works. Oh man, look at that, hitting d8. So of course, in the last sequence, if the king was on g7, knight e7 wouldn't matter. We could just go bishop b6 and defend this pawn because it is a double attack. But now that the king is on g8 and not g7, knight e7 is a big boy move, and that's GG. Start a new game. That's game over. So beautiful move here, knight to c6 and bishop f6, sort of forcing, hey, you take. Hopefully I can take, especially after I move my bishop. But in fact, he actually plays b5. He just says, I'm going to commit my knight to c6 here. And Aronian is soon going to convert this extra pawn, is what he's saying. Bishop d7, g4, we're going to fast forward through the moves. g5, locking the bishop in, but only temporary. h4, we take those, and g5. Now we're anchored this bishop. This bishop has no squares but to go back, really, which is really, really ugly. So instead, we may have to capture, which is what Gelfand does. Capture, capture, and bishop d8. Saying, okay, cool, I know this is ugly for me, but I'm going to try to hold. Bishop d8, king g2, in game 101. I mean, look at these passers over here. We're going to try to get a mobile and work this thing, but we do need to bring the king into action. It is the end game. King g2, bishop c7, and king h3. And right here, Gelfand just resigned. He was like, what am I playing for, right? You could play on, of course, and prove for Aronian, hey, you have to prove it, but it's just winning. It's a winning end game. Gelfand understands that, and he resigns in this position. That was number 3. Now let's go to number 4. And here we are with number 4 of the top moves for Aronian. Now, Aronian played white in this game in 2016 versus his opponent, Fabiano Caruana. So definitely a beast, right? He always play beast. What else do we expect from Aronian here? White to move, guys. White to move. Check this out. Maybe pause the video. This is a wild one. White to move. What are you going to do? Here it is. This is what Aronian chose. If we actually look at the position here before we give the move, let's see what's going on. The king is actually in a center, kind of a weak king in a way. But look at the counterpart. I mean, sort of weak as well. H6. Like, where did the pawn go? Where did the G pawn go? So it's kind of a double-edged position where this rook could actually help us out. And maybe we could get something going against blacks. A white's king here says black here, but it is white to move. Now, there are many good moves here for white. But here is what white shows here. In fact, one of the fun ones that's in fashion, and maybe you chose this one too, is Queen G5. Looks like a queen sack. Whoa. Can he just take my queen? Well, he can, but I'm going to get it right back with interest here, in fact. Pretty cool. Pawn takes, rook c1's coming. The bishops are active. You have a rook file open. So much compensation here. Pretty cool stuff. But after queen g5, okay, Fabiano didn't fall for the gimmicks. It's Fabiano, right? So he's like, all right, cool. Yeah, that's a cool move. Queen g5. Bishop takes c3 first. We're going to eliminate this knight and actually make sure that you have some structural damage here before we trade queens. Pawn takes, then he actually takes on f2. Look at that move, saying that, hey, if I'm going to take your queen, this almost looks like some type of bullet chess game where people are just making moves just to flag here. Queen takes f2 check, and saying that, hey, you can take my queen because I'm going to take yours right back. And now, yeah, you're going to take with check, but I step my king. So virtually some of the same kind of positions this would have went to. But the difference here is that Fabi said, I'm going to mess up your structure. Look how gross the structure looks, in fact. Not the prettiest structure here for white. But we do have two bishops and it's slightly open game, especially if we start trading like c takes d5. And that's exactly what Aronian does to say, hey, I have bishops. Bishops like what, class? Raise your hand. That's right. Open file, open diagonals, and open files like the rooks do, but open diagonals and lines. So we like an open game, okay? So that's the game we want. C takes d5, e takes d5, even at the cost of activating our opponent's bishop as well. c4, look at this, open the game. Rook on a file with a smile here. The bishop's got the nice diagonal. I mean, they're swiping the board here. And activity on the h file, sheesh. There's a lot going on. c4, bishop to e6, defending the d5 pawn. And after takes, you are not winning this, obviously, so he defends it. And of course, we have some more moves here, so let's actually fast forward. Bishop d3, rook h8, takes, and after that, e4. So attacking the bishop, also attacking c6 at the same time, but he has a nice in-between move. Remember, the best defense is offense. So knight to b4, attacking the bishop, you take mine, I take yours, and with interest, the game follows after that. But here we go, rook h1, check. In between move, hitting the king, gotta respond. King g8, and then we snap those pawn takes with the threat of bishop e5, looking crazy. And this is a passed pawn. Knight takes d3, bam. King e3. Whoa, this looks crazy. Knight before bishop e5. There is mate on the back rank here. So f6 has to be played to make some loops for my king. Bishop takes f6, knight takes d5 with check. King e4, he takes again. We take rook c8. And this is a one inning game, guys. We have the extra passer here. The pawn is actually close enough for us to make the classic king to g6 move with rook h7, checking and checking here. So this is a one in game here. And after king f5, rook check, and actually black resigned right here. Actually, after the check, there was a resignation. But this game's over. And actually, it was so cool to see Aronian right here do queen to g5. Very nasty, nasty move with nasty intentions. And that was number 4, guys. So let's get on to the final move of Aronian today. And this one is number 5. And here we are with number 5 of the top 5 moves with Aronian here. Where Aronian's playing white. He's playing against Vidit. Let's see what happens. In fact, let's take a stock of the position. White has 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns. Opposite color bishops. So, of course, it can be draw-ish, but also in times where attacking chances are possible here. And for instance, white attacking g7, tying the queen down to the defense here, leaves one of the pieces kind of just out there to do whatever. So in these kind of positions, they can be double-edged, but this also could be drawn depending on how you proceed here. This is white to move here, and this is Aronian. So is white to move. What do you do here? Here it is, guys. This is what Aronian chose. Now, yeah, he's trying to overcome the fact that I just have the opposite color bishop thing. What do we do about this? The queen can't move as much. You do have queen g5 check coming that can just kind of trade off, and this could be drawn in a way. So what he says is, you know what? We're going to limit everything that you have and maximize everything that I have. How can I do that with one move? Would that help you? Let's actually see if you can find it now. Here it is. Here's the move. B4. What? B4? How many of you were actually thinking B4 in this position? What in the world is this move? In fact, it's an excellent move. It's a wonderful move and a spectacular move all at the same time. Why? If B4, well, of course, number one, now if queen g5, we now have a passer working where if you remove the bishop, which is already terrible, I get to take on d3. A4 is probably going to follow, and I'm going to have some really good winning chances as white if queen g5 trying to trade the queens now. So secondly, okay, now I have this pawn trying to queen, and your bishop's really bad. The queen's still defending g7. So we can start walking this one. So Vidit says, you know what? I am not going to allow that. Did you just blunder? Like, why would you play b4? You know I can en passant here. And he does. A takes b3. And now here's the intention behind the move. White to move here, guys. What do you do? Here it is. Here it is. Bishop to b2. And the black bishop is not even a bishop anymore. It can't. I mean, where are you going? Like, what are you doing? What's your plan ever with this bishop? Right? It's absolutely terrible. And now we have an outsider, and this is made as well. Unbelievable. This is such a cool tactic to see here, and something that you may be able to use in your own games. Now, after bishop to b2, there's h5 trying to do something, and you think we're taking his pawn? Come on, now he had to try it. You have to try, but we know he's not taking his pawn. G5. Lock it up. And after G5, there's H4. Okay, we're pushing A4, King G8, A5. Pass pawn's got to be pushed. King H7, A6. You can't take it. You can't do anything. A6 is on the board. And after A6, he says, you know what, Bishop D1. Whatever, bro. We got to get something going here. King takes, and the reason for this is to play D2. Now, you have to be careful yourself because there's mate on F7. This would be fatal, or actually close to mate. Check, and then you're getting mated soon after a promotion with check to a queen is game over. So what he did here is, in fact, and if king takes, there is a check here, which is annoying, and he takes the bishop, and he might be queening before you are, depending on the checks. Kind of strange. Like, what is this? How did he get this here? You can go very, very wrong here if you're not spotting all the ways to simplify or liquidate things like Aronian found here with queen takes G7. Just get everything off the board. I have a winning pawn in game where you can't catch me. I can take this one too, and you can't queen any of their stuff. Takes, and take this first. This is very important because we both will be able to queen if I push the pawn here, and he'll be able to push as well. Not fun. So king takes D2, and right here, black resigned. This right here was awesome stuff from the man himself, Levon Aronian, and this was his top 5 moves here from Chess.com. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm National Master James Canty III with Chess.com, and I'll see you guys on the next video.